All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm Captain Beefy, and this is Prime Cuts with Captain Beefy. Today, we're going to talk about last night's State of the Union address given by President Donald Trump and my thoughts on what was said and the reactions of those involved in the speech. First off, it was about an hour and 22 minutes. It was a rather long address, and overall, I believe President Trump nailed it. He really, really did a good job. He stayed on script, didn't go off script, and we all know, as much as whatever we feel about Donald Trump, when he stays on script, he does all right. When he gets off script, sometimes he, does some real serious gaffes there. But some of the high points of the evening were how he highlighted our World War II vets. Had a couple World War II vets and celebrated the 75th anniversary of the ending of World War II. The fact that he brought in an ICE agent, and we got to celebrate him as well, which is kind of nice. He also addressed the one of the survivors from the synagogue attack a couple months back. Addressed a survivor from the Holocaust as well, and the little girl that with cancer. I believe her name was Gracie. That was a really sweet moment too. How she always championed St. Jude, not knowing that one day she would be assisted by them. So that was really, really a great moment as well. One of the other things I really liked was the fact that he did address immigration and illegal immigration, to be specific, and he did have an angel family there. I believe it was the granddaughter and great granddaughter of a couple that was killed by an illegal immigrant. And you can see it was a very emotional moment for them, and everyone should appreciate their sacrifice, that they actually went there and had to face that in front of everybody. That was a poignant moment. There were a lot of great moments that kind of pulled at the heartstrings. Another one was the lady that was released from jail after serving 22 years, I believe it was, for drug related charges. She was visibly moved and shaken, and so these were the things that appealed to, pulled at the heartstrings, and that was great. That you got to do these things. Sometimes you can see them as a little cheesy sometimes, but they are effective. If you go for the heart of people, you can get them. Now, watching those Democrats, man, all the Democratic congressmen dressed in white. All they were missing were their white KKK hoods, and they would really represent that party well. But they were something else. If you watched Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was sitting there the whole time like, yeah, she looked like a sullen little girl that got grounded and wasn't allowed to talk or told to hush at the table or something like that. It was really, really funny. She was just a little, she had her stank face on the whole time. And then to me, that was great. Nancy Pelosi, right there behind Donald Trump, just, you could see her seething at certain points in this, during the address. And it was funny. And then she did that one smart ass little golf clap looking thing at him. It was also great watching Kamala Harris, just shake her head no when Donald Trump was talking about illegal immigration and stopping sex trafficking and all that. That was just pure gold. You can't get any better than that. I think the coup de grace was Bernie Sanders when Trump mentioned that, what we were founded on, our principles, liberty, and so forth and so on, and we'll never be a socialist company, or a socialist country, I'm sorry. And then the camera just zooms in, and there's Bernie, and he's like, you just see that sour face there, These guys know they're losing. They know they're losing. And when somebody is losing, they're even more dangerous than they ever were before. So we got to watch these guys. They're gonna keep pulling out all the stops. We saw the false flags last month, the attempted smearing of conservatives and all that to, that would in essence roll upward and make Donald Trump look bad, our president, So, in any case, Donald Trump addressed the border. He talked about stopping the human trafficking. He talked about how 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted as they make their way to the border, and attempt to cross the border. That's 33%. It was fact-checked and said to be partially true because it's really only 31%. If you're going to call that partially true at this point, that's just ridiculous. But anyway, you know, should he have said 3 and 10 instead? I mean, it's an unacceptable number. There were some parts though that I believe could have been. I think it should have been weighed out a little bit better. I think we should have spent a little less time on like the Holocaust survivor and all that. Which is great. No disrespect intended and all that, but this was a long, long time ago, and maybe a little more time on current issues like immigration. Maybe another angel family that lost somebody. Maybe honoring some more of them, having them sitting there and looking on screen there for these Democrats to see the damage that their anti America policies is causing. I mean, my God, how many people have to die? So he also spoke about the upcoming imminent potential shutdown of the government again in a couple weeks, but hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm really hoping that he does declare a state of emergency before then. If he does that, then great, we'll be in good shape. But all in all, he spoke about unemployment in the country and how it's the lowest it's been in forever. Black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, disabled people. All these numbers are down. Women, these numbers are down, right? Democrats, no response, just dead stone faces, because record unemployment or record low unemployment is not a good thing for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party needs you to rely on the government so that they can continue to exist. And, low numbers of unemployment is bad for them, because now all of a sudden we have more Hispanic people that don't need the government to lean on, more blacks that don't need them, more women with, all these little demographics that were mentioned, they're all in the workplace more, so they require less government assistance. And when you don't require the assistance of the government, you can start to look at it in a different light. It's no longer your provider, you are now your own provider. You are now paying taxes out of that money you make, and you're saying to yourself, well, hey, I used to be the guy that needed help, that relied on the government, that was fooled into it, or however you want to look at it, and now I'm the guy that's providing for himself. Why should I provide for all these other people who can't do it? You're going to start to, your thoughts are going to change. You're going to become maybe a little less liberal, a little more conservative, a little more like, well, dang, maybe they were right. Maybe reliance on the government isn't a good thing. But the Democrats didn't cheer that. They didn't cheer about, stopping, changing immigration and helping to stop, the influx of crime into this country and the damage that it does to our families. They didn't cheer anything about that. What I did find ironic, though, and this was great, this was just perfect, and I wonder if this was just a complete and total setup, or if it was just an unintentional awesomeness. But one thing that Donald Trump did mention, our president there, he talked about how 100 years ago women were given the right to vote, and now here we are 100 years later, and Congress has more women in it than ever. And they all stood up and cheered. So they cheered themselves, and that was it. And that was, I think, the only time that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez showed any emotion other than that sullen, sour RBF that she had on the whole time. And she actually got up and did a high five, but there was nobody there to receive it. Ooh, that sucks, We've all been there, just not on, national TV. So this makes the Democrats look even worse than they were looking before. I mean, you actually got a little life out of Nancy Pelosi at that moment, and they all stood up and they all cheered and they all, yeah, girl power, girl power, girl power. You know what? You guys are so full of yourselves. It's pathetic and it's transparent, and more people are seeing this every day. People are waking up. Keep dividing the country. Keep dividing that Democratic Party, and you're going to keep losing. So all in all, a very good State of the Union address. There wasn't any like hard policies or plans put into play, anything announced like that. But it was inspirational, and it called for unity. It really did. It honestly did. He called for unity. There are things that were discussed that you shouldn't be divided over as a country. If you care about your country, you care about America and its citizens, then you should be happy that there are record lows in unemployment. Who doesn't like that? I mean, that's amazing. I should have put my phone on silent. But anyway, that's an amazing thing. That's a thing to be celebrated. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on, because that's good for America. Americans working is good. He talked about the trade deals and negotiating with that. You know, he spoke about, overall it was very good. He hit all the good points. You know, it was just really, it was a real show on the Democratic side, and that was sad. So anyway, enough about that. I definitely recommend, if you haven't seen it, to watch the whole thing. It's a great way to spend an hour and 22 minutes of your life. And then afterward, you definitely have to watch Stacey Abrams' rebuttal or answer, whatever they want to call to it, her, you know, whatever they want to call it, you know, because the the contrast was amazing. So I watched that speech and all that, took a break, came back, sat back down, and then I watched the Stacey Abrams rebuttal. And they had her obviously on a green screen. You could just see the perfect outline around her hair. I mean, I've seen YouTubers with better, you know, green screen skills than they had for this. And behind her was this group of people that were kind of blurred out a little bit, and they're all just standing there. You know, there's probably 20, 30 people. I don't know what that original scene was from, what they were all standing from. They just were kind of lifeless and whatnot. And then Stacey Abrams starts off talking about herself and her family. So, I don't know why her life should be part of a rebuttal or whatever you want to call that thing that she did. But she tells this stupid story about her family and how her father worked at the docks or whatever, and they had only one car, so he had to walk home and blah, blah, blah. And one night, he was late, and Mom went to go pick him up, and they found him with no coat on, and it was raining. He said, I gave the coat to a homeless guy. And, you know, I'm like, to me, that story read complete BS. It really did. It sounds like that kind of, it did. It reeked of BS. First off, if you had a family with one car, you know, why wouldn't Mom just pick Dad up all the time? And if the night was rainy, why wouldn't she, you know, even if it wasn't that far of a walk or whatever, you know, why not pick them up? Throw the kids in the car, go get them. I know my mother would have done that for my father if we were in that situation, and my father would have done it for my mother. No questions asked. It wouldn't have even been an issue, you know, especially on a rainy night. It's one thing if Dad's like, no, you know what, it's a 2-mile walk. I enjoy it. I unwind. Well, that's all understandable. But if it's raining, nobody likes a walk in the rain. I don't care if it's a 2-mile or a 500-foot walk. It sucks, you know. So, yeah, that story just reeked of complete BS. And it was just, it was so sappy. And then afterward, she starts to list off these Democratic talking points, these liberal talking points. And it's just, it was just all over the place, scattershot. It wasn't a response. It was just, you know, it was like climate change, you know, and voter suppression, and, you know, on and on. And you're like, what are you talking about here? You have no narrative here. You're just throwing out words and talking points, and there's like no context to them. So it was pretty pathetic, but I definitely recommend you watch it because you got to see for it yourself. It's pretty bad. I thought, I won't even say it, but oh my God, it was horrifying. So that's going to be it for today. I appreciate you watching and tuning in. Go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications, and I'll see you next time. Once again, this is Captain Beefy with Prime Cuts with Captain Beefy.